Welcome, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. I'm your producer and host of the show, Dr. Lino Martinez. This is your motivational podcast of people's incredible journeys. Oh, yeah, let's do this. Welcome back, everybody, to the A Little Less Fear podcast. Today, I would love to welcome Katharine Giovanni, a three-time award-winning best-selling author, speaker, and one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. Katharine has authored over 12 books, including her latest release, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Katharine's journey from battling stage 3 cancer to navigating a challenging childhood has given her profound insights about resilience and forgiveness. So incredible to connect with you on my podcast and so awesome to finally meet you, Katharine. Welcome to A Little Less Fear podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Katharine, tell us your journey. What got you to write this incredible book that you currently released, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power? What motivated you to do this?
Well, to quote some song lyrics, it's been a long, strange trip.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I love that.
It started when I was a kid, really. I was raised in a very pickled family, meaning filled with alcoholism, both my parents. And I was horribly bullied as a kid because I was different. I'm intuitive. And so I was different than everybody else. And then in the 8th grade, my parents went through a very nasty divorce, and all of the stress from everything caused me to try to commit suicide. And a friend of mine talked me out of it. And I didn't tell anybody I was intuitive because back in the 1970s, I am that old, dinosaurs were probably roaming the planet in those days. But if you even remotely exhibited any intuitive ability, they'd slap a "you're crazy as a bedbug" sticker on your forehead, and they'd put you in the funny farm and give you meds. And I'm actually not kidding. So I just kept it to myself. I didn't tell anybody. And after I tried to commit suicide, I turned into one of those teenagers. So I squashed everything, and you know who I'm talking about. Those teenagers, they're draped in black, and they just kind of bobble through life with one friend. And I was living in New York at the time, and everybody wears black in New York. So I probably shouldn't even say that anymore because everybody wears black in New York, don't they? But I bobbled through life until about 10 years, 15 years later, when my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital. And even my mother couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she dried out, and we sent her to rehab. And we spent the next 3 years forgiving each other. We became as close as sisters.
Wow.
It was the most beautiful time I'd ever had. And then she died of breast cancer 3 years later.
Oh,
and that was kind of the flashpoint in my life. And I realized very quickly that if I didn't clean up my act, I was going to die just like she would. So I quit drinking, tamed my own demons. I've been sober now for 34 years.
Wow.
And
Congratulations.
thank you. I started this kind of journey because everybody tells you have to forgive. Nobody teaches you how. They just say, do it. And what if you don't want to?
Right.
In those days, you go to AA and you have to go through the STEP program, and you do the 4th step, and you have to make amends, and you have to reach out to people. I am an extroverted introvert now, but back then, painfully shy. Reaching out to somebody who might want to yell at me? No, not my cup of tea. Not going to happen. Not in anybody's world. So I kind of just would say, I forgive you to people and apologize and practice forgiveness, but it was just kind of paying lip service to it. But it kind of changed me, and it kind of moved the anger to the back of my mind. And then it just kind of went from there. I discovered the independent concierge industry by listening to that little bird on your shoulder. And I can teach you the most beautiful words in the world. I'm a customer service trainer. I can tell you how to dress. I can tell you how to act. But if you're angry, it's going to bleed through your body language, whether you want it to or not. So I had to come up with a method to get people to release their anger in a business workshop in the 1990s.
Wow.
Not done. Soft topics were just not done. It was just,
Mm-hmm.
it was considered taboo. Well, being the rebel that I am, I did bring forgiveness to the workshops for just like 15 minutes, and it literally changed people's lives. And that's kind of how it all started.
That's incredible. And that was back in the 90s.
That was in the 90s. We didn't figure out the special sauce for
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness, the actual secret to it, until 2021. It took a while for us to figure it out.
And when you say the secret sauce, what was the secret sauce that was missing? So what? And before you tell us the actual answer, let's go back to your original forgiveness, the forgiveness that you had
Mhm.
with your mother those 3 years. I can imagine that forgiveness that you had with her has also evolved the way that it evolved in the 90s to where how it has evolved in up to 2021, correct? It's
It
probably
has.
different stages of forgiveness that you evolved yourself in order to come up with the equation that you came up with in 2021.
There are stages. Forgiveness is a tough topic, no matter who's talking about it, because, and here's why. On a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable, toxic waste dump, and 1 being the easiest person in the world to forgive, everybody watching and listening to this broadcast is thinking of their number 10s. Every single one of you. And that's why nobody wants to forgive, because you're thinking of the one person that caused you the most pain, the
Mhm.
one person you absolutely positively don't want to forgive. That's why nobody wants to talk to it. But with my method, I want you to start at the other end. I want you to start with the number 1s. The person in grade school who cheated off your paper, you can forgive that kid. The person who stole your lunch out of the lunchroom at the office last week, come on, you can forgive that person. The person who cut you off on I-95 South, come on, you can
Mhm.
forgive that person. Easy people. But a
Sure.
few things about forgiveness just before we start talking about it. Um, just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I
Mhm.
probably don't. Especially
Mhm.
if you're a narcissistic family member or somebody you live with, there's probably a lot of reasons why I don't want a relationship with you.
Right.
Just because this really trips people up. I think we were taught this in school, but just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving in and you're all of a sudden right and I'm giving you a pass.
Mhm.
That's not what it means. You're still wrong and you're still a garbage dump. Forgiveness means simply, I want you out of my head. That's it.
Mhm.
I want to
Out
stop thinking
out of my
about
head
you.
and out of my energy.
Exactly. I want you out of my head. That's what
Mhm.
forgiveness means to
Mhm.
me. And what everybody forgets about forgiveness is you can forgive the person, but everything on our planet has energy around it. Einstein
Mhm.
proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms into one thing to
Mhm.
another. So
Mhm.
when you get mad, everybody thinks it leaves your mouth and it magically dissipates in the universe. It does not. It hangs around your energy field.
Mhm.
And everything, including this tiny little microphone, has energy around it. So when people, the reason you can't shake these people, they're still living in your mind, is because you didn't forgive the energy. You didn't forgive the energy around the person. And that's why you're still attached to that person, because you didn't forgive the energy. And the method that I've come up with and the very simple mantra that I have, and we could go through the whole method, I could walk everybody through it,
I would
is
love that.
you didn't forgive the energy. But I want you to start, I can't say it enough. I really want you to start with the easy people, because that's going to open the door. You're going to start to feel better. And you could forgive your number 10s, the unforgivables.
Mhm.
They're a bear, man.
Oh yeah.
And I'm the only one in the world that's going to look you in the eye and say, you don't have to forgive the unforgivable. I'm the only one that can tell you that. Why? Because sometimes it's not appropriate. There are things in this world that are unforgivable.
Mhm.
Absolutely. But why? Because there's a lot of people, places, and things. And I did say places and things. So stay with me, everybody.
Okay.
People, places, and things that you can forgive before you even get to that toxic mess. A
Mhm.
lot of other places.
I have a lot to I have a lot of
There's a lot to
questions.
unpack there,
Yeah,
isn't
I have
it?
a lot to unpack. So I had a pretty profound spiritual practice with Buddhism, and when in the Buddha was able to forgive even the most unforgivable. So
He was
And
a
if I'm under,
unicorn.
what's that?
He was a unicorn. Very few people. There are a few unicorns on the planet that are probably to forgive the unforgivable, but most of us, it's very hard.
Right, okay, I can see that definitely. But it is possible.
It is possible. My method will make it possible. Absolutely.
I love this. And so one of the first things I was thinking as you were talking about this is I've often met people that say something along the lines of, I forgive, but I can't forget. I
Right.
forgive, but I don't forget. And whenever I hear that, I feel that there isn't forgiveness because I still feel their fire is being fueled.
But you can't forget. Nobody on the planet, except the Buddha maybe, can forget. It's like these old adages that we all say without thinking. I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. Okay, first of all, why are you throwing stones at
Yeah.
birds? And what did they do to you? I didn't do anything. Stop throwing stones at birds. Come up with
Right.
something else. Forgive and forget. I don't know who came up with that, but it's not true. You can't forget.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe there's a couple unicorns on the planet that can't, but I'm not your girl. But what I can promise you is using this method, I can promise you that there won't be an emotional charge any longer. You can look at that name. This is how you know you've forgiven somebody. You can look at that name and it doesn't cause any reaction in you. And the first time it happens to you is going to stun you. You're going to say, wait, you're going to be on Facebook or something, and you're going to see your bully or your ex-business partner or your ex come up, and you're not going to be mad. You're not going to be happy, but you're not going to be mad. And you're going to sit there and say, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for neutrality. Now I
Right.
could look back at my toxic childhood and I can regurgitate, to use a horrible word, I can regurgitate all the horrible things that happened to me back there.
Mm-hmm.
But now I can see the pockets of love that was back there. I can see the grown-ups and the adults that were trying to help that kid. And
Mm-hmm.
now I can look back and see the love that was actually there. That's what this method
Yes.
does. It's almost transforming my past because I don't remember it anymore. I've forgiven it all. There's no emotional reaction anymore. And if I go to my family is mostly passed away, but if I go to, let's say, anybody's wedding, all I see is love there now. Now, do I remember these things? Sure, I remember them, but I don't care.
It's not
I
charged.
legitimately don't care.
It's not charged with that negative
Not even a little
heaviness,
bit.
dark cloud that was charging it before. And so there was something that I was feeling right now with the forgiveness, where I've often heard people say and I just want to get your opinion on this. I've often heard a lot of people say that forgiveness starts with forgiving yourself. How do you feel
Mhm.
about that?
Sometimes yourself is a number 10.
That
Sometimes
is
there's
fascinating, Catherine. Tell us more.
when you sit down to write your list, you might be your own number 10. Now, you might have your ex on there. Usually, number 10s are family or exes, either ex business partner or ex partner or whatever it is. But sometimes you're your number 10. Sometimes you're the one that's there. And so, how do you forgive the unforgivable, including if it's yourself? Well, the first thing is, I want you to, first of all, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Forgiveness is like an onion. So, the brain is a wonderful, wonderful tool, and it protects you. So, when you start to forgive, you may not think it worked for the most part, but it did, because the first layer of the onion is now gone. And your brain is going to go, fantastic, Catherine's ready for these memories. And it's going to open up that back closet in your head and you're going to remember something. That's the first part of the journey. So when you're forgiving the unforgivable, I want you to pick out a memory of whatever it is. And if you can't forgive the person, I have people who can't even forgive the energy around the person. They're so irritated. Well, then let's pick apart the memory. Let's use me as an example. I did forgive my childhood bullies back in grammar school. And how I did it is I picked out one memory, and then I forgave the building. I forgave the school building, the energy around the building. I forgave the desk, the table, the chair, the classroom,
Wow.
the playground. I forgave the kids who stood around and didn't help me. And I forgave the energy around all these things.
Mm.
And then I waited a week and I did it again and I picked out another memory. And you're not going to get a number 10 person down to a 1 overnight. Ain't going to happen. This is a journey. And it took me weeks and weeks to do this, but I eventually got that number 10 bully down to a forgivable level. And it took me a very long time because some days I just didn't want to forgive. And if you're sitting there listening to me and you just don't want to forgive, well, then just say this for the next week. I completely forgive myself for not being able to forgive and the energy around this thought. Say that every day for a week, and that will start the party. Now, why do people say anger is toxic?
Yes.
Why does it make you feel sick?
Yes.
There's a
Why?
study called the Japanese water study, and you could Google it. It's right online. And it was developed by a guy named Masumoto something. I always get his name wrong, but that's close to what his name is. And what he did is he took several containers of water. One container of water, he just spoke beautiful, loving words to it. That's all he did. He talked to it, said it was gorgeous, spoke these beautiful words. The other container of water, hate, negativity. He spoke horrible, horrible things to that container of water. Then he froze the water and he put it under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these beautiful formations, gorgeous formations. The water he spoke hate to had these malformations of black and brown, nasty looking things. Now, why am I telling you this? Your body is 90-something% water.
Water. Yeah.
So when your self-talk is bad, or you're filled with all this toxic anger and hate and bitterness and regret and unforgiveness, what do you think you're doing to the water cells within your own body?
Oh, yeah. Not making pretty icicles, that's for sure.
You are not making pretty icicles, not even a little bit. So as you forgive, even forgiving the memories, even forgiving the table, the bed, the chair, and the energy around these things, you're actually going to be changing the cells in your body, and you're going to be changing the energy around your own body. Listen, I forgave cancer and the energy around cancer. I forgave chemotherapy. I forgave the chemo chair. I forgave radiation. I forgave the radiation slab. Boy, that was a horrible table. You just lie on that thing. It was awful. But I forgave all of these things. I actually forgave everything and the energy around it. And I can't tell you how that's going to change your life.
Can we talk a little bit more about forgiving the energy around something, because the energy is attached to that feeling, and even if you're not, and this is just what I'm feeling from it, that even if you're not aware, or people are not aware, that the feeling that is produced in a specific area, the energy stays locked in, even in through your memories. And
It
so
does.
even in recollecting that specific memory where it seems or feels unforgivable, you're also radiating that same unforgiveness towards the objects that also have their own energy field around it. And therefore, even the thought of sitting on a chair close to that memory can even bring about some of that anger, some of that resentment, and some of that bottled in feelings that have been trapped for some people a lifetime.
I couldn't say it better myself.
Great.
That's
All right.
absolutely true.
Great.
That's why
Yeah,
you
makes
have to
sense.
forgive. Some people look at me and they say, I have forgiven him. Okay, well, the fact that you're saying that through clenched teeth, you might want to give it another go.
Right.
I did do the work. I did forgive him. Yeah, you did. 100% you did. But you didn't forgive the energy. That's why they're still in your head. And everybody listening, you're still thinking of that unforgivable person. So, it's kind of, you're kind of stuck in a loop. And then and it's usually men, no disrespect intended. Please don't email me. But it's usually it's usually men who say, I've built a career on my anger and my hatred. I have made a lot of money and I've gotten very, very far
I've
because
heard
it
that.
was this is how I got up in the morning.
Sure.
This has fueled my fire. I have nothing to forgive. Okay, let's
I've
talk
heard
about
this.
that.
Yeah, let's
Sure.
talk about it. I've heard
Let's
that
talk
plenty
about
of
that.
times.
You can take either the local train or the express. Both will get you to where you were going to go. You can get on that local train. Sure, you can. It will get you to that destination, that dream life. Sure, it will. But it's the anger train, and you're going to get sick, and you're going to bloody your knees, and it's going to be hard, and you're going to want to stop. It is a hard, hard road. It's like getting into the elevator and some kid has pressed absolutely every floor, and you got to go up to floor 75, and you're stopping at every single solitary floor. By the time you get to 75, you are in a bad mood because it's every single floor, right?
Makes
And
sense.
people get on the elevator, and sometimes you kind of feel good with them, and sometimes you don't if your energy doesn't match with these people.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can get on the express train with me. Love and forgiveness and joy will get you twice as far, twice as fast, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to take the local train.
Absolutely. And also, people use their anger to with other things like athletes, like sports or
So they do.
going to the gym or working out, and you can see it in their ethic.
But if you start forgiving, you're going to get even farther. When I first started this method in the 90s, and I was just paying lip service, I didn't understand the energy back in those days. I'm very intuitive, so I was following the little bird on my shoulder. That's how I became one of the original founders of the concierge industry, the independent concierge industry. It's not that I'm particularly smart. It's because I'm a really good listener. And that's how I pounded out the first book. But back in those days, I just kind of paid lip service to it. And I kind of started for my forgiveness journey. And every time I truly forgave somebody, my business bottom line would increase. And I didn't understand. I kept saying, I'm a college educated girl. Why is forgiving something in my personal life, my family, affecting my company's bottom line? Yet it did. So
Mhm.
here's a visual for you. If you're listening to this, hop over to YouTube and watch the demonstration, but I'm about to hold a very opaque coffee cup in front of my face. When you first get angry, this cup, which is filled with bitterness and anger and hatred, but look at my body language. Hey, I can manage my anger. This is
Yeah.
easy. I can hold
Right.
it off to the side. It's not affecting me at all. Sure. But the longer I hold on to it, the more it's going to hurt because I'm
It's gonna
human.
get
And
heavier and heavier.
well, because we're going to put more stuff I'm angry about into the cup. Humans
Mhm.
irritate other humans. It's part of who we are. So the longer I hold on to this, more it's going to hurt. Now look at my body language. Now I need two hands to hold up the cup, but I can still hold it off to the side. You and I can still have a relationship. We can go out to dinner. I can go to work. It's starting to get into my vocabulary, but I can still do this. But if I keep holding on to it, now it's in front of my face. It's all I can talk about. I can't even see you anymore. It's in my
Yes.
conversations. And who wants to be around me? Because who wants to be around somebody all negative all the time who's always talking about that one thing that's really unforgivable? So once you start this method, even if you only forgive your number ones, twos, threes, and fours,
Hmm.
your life is going to change because you're going to start to pay attention. You might find the perfect way to heal yourself from whatever you're suffering from, or another career, which is going to make you boatloads of money, or that dream relationship will walk in. Why didn't you notice it before? Because you were too focused on the anger. And
Absolutely.
people are
The
going to
anger was
notice,
clouding it.
and they're going to look at you and say, did you change your hair? Something's
Something's
different
different.
about
Yeah,
you.
something's different about your energy. You did something different.
You did something different, but let me give you a little PSA, a tiny little warning. When you do this work, one of three things will happen to you. People will, like energy attracts like energy. We were talking about this before the podcast.
Yes.
And people will be attracted to your new energy. Beautiful thing. But the opposite is also true. People will be repelled. That person you've been for so long, you're all of a sudden changing. You're turning into a butterfly now. And the people that liked the other person, they're going to leave like jackrabbits. And Maya Angelou said, when somebody shows you who they truly are, believe them the first time. Let them go. And then you're going to have the sabotagers who think, okay, well, she's getting all happy and she's making money and starting to live her dream life. Okay, well, if I can't have it, neither can she, because they want their old friend back. They want the negative Nelly person back.
Sure.
So you just have to keep your stance, because stay on that express train, because at the end of the day, it's going to be worth it. 100%.
Stay on the express train because the express train is the train that's taking you to your best version of yourself once you've forgiven and peeled back the onion that you were talking about. And so let's go back to let's get into the forgiveness method. You were talking about that pick out a memory. Is that the first step? Pick out a memory, whether it's starting with the most easiest person on a scale 1 through 10 to forgive, either it's a level 4 or level 5.
Well, the
Is that
first thing I
the
want
first
you to
step?
do is write your list.
Write the list of
I want
people
you to
and
write a
places
list,
or things that you
but
need to forgive.
right. And if they just write a list of all the people you think you need to forgive. And I want you to do it from the sandbox, from the time you
Mhm.
were 2 years old to present day. Write your list.
Okay.
And if some places and things end up on your list, don't judge it. Let it stay on the list. Maybe your
Sure.
childhood home,
Mhm.
maybe the dining room table where you got lectured every night at dinner. Oh, that was mine. Never mind. That kind of thing. Maybe these little things will end up on your list. Let them. And then I want you to rank them from 1 to 10. Now you could have 7 number 5s. Totally fine. You could
Okay.
skip a number. Works for me. Don't care.
Mhm.
And then I want you to start with the number 1s and
Mhm.
slowly work your way up the list. So what I do is I imagine, my number 1 was a friend of mine that I grew up with. She went to
Mhm.
school with me. So I imagine, this is a true story, by the way, and it was a number 1, and I couldn't even remember what we were mad about. So I got in the middle of my bed, and remember, you forgive for you. You don't forgive for them. It's personal. Forgiveness
Yeah.
is selfish. You
Okay.
do it for you. You do it because you want them out of your head. You don't do
Right.
it for them. And because of that, and because there's no reason for you to reach out and talk to anybody, nobody has to know you're doing this. To be perfectly blunt, you can forgive dead people too,
Mhm.
because it doesn't matter where they are or where they're not. If they're living in your head,
The energy's still alive,
the
right?
energy is still alive and well. So I want you to remember the person as they were when you met them. In other words, I didn't think of this person as an adult. I thought of her as a kid, as I used to
Mhm.
know her. And then if you want to yell it to the room, go ahead. You're alone in a room. You can yell, you can cry, you can do whatever you want. Get
Mhm.
it all out if that's what you need to do.
Mhm.
And if you can't imagine the person in your mind's eye, put a chair in front of you, and you can even put a sticky note with the person's name on it if you really want to. That's fine too.
Mhm.
Whatever you need to do. And then I want you to say the following: I completely forgive Martha. I completely forgive the energy around Martha. I completely forgive myself for anything I may or may not have done. I completely forgive the energy around myself. And I completely forgive the energy around the entire thing. You don't have to hold any crystals unless that's what you like to do. You don't have to burn sage or dance around the room unless that's really what you like to do. I'm a very simple soul.
Mhm.
Once you do that, I want you to check in with your body. Are they a number 1?
Let's
Are
Catherine,
they
one moment
0?
before we continue, because I'm writing this down. So I
Mhm.
completely forgive so and so, or the place, or the object,
Right?
and then
And the energy.
I completely forgive the energy around that person, place, or
Right.
thing. Then I completely forgive the energy around myself.
Completely forgive myself, and I completely forgive the energy around myself.
Okay.
I always personally add for anything I may or may not have done. It's just a little addition that I always add. It's a personal thing. And
Mhm.
then you forgive the energy around the entire situation
Got it.
and
Thank you.
say amen. And so it is. Next, whatever, however you want to end it, doesn't matter to me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Continue. Sorry about that.
And you're sitting in your bed, and you're going to feel, my older son says his shoulders felt lighter. He said, "This is weird, Mom, but my shoulders actually feel lighter." Some of you might feel energy in the middle of your stomach, in your solar plexus, which is really just above your belly button, in the middle of your belly. You might. Some of you might get really, 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 really tired. Um,
Mhm.
and I suggest to everybody that you do this at night before bed. I did this method
Mhm.
because I am a little bit of an overachiever. Shocker. And so I got my list together, and I thought, this is going to be great. I must have had 40, 50 names on this list. And I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning like a phoenix rising from the
Yeah.
ashes. And I'm just going to be great. And I'm going to forgive all these people. I'm going to be a
Yeah.
new person in the morning. Didn't work out that way. because I did forgive many people on the list, but I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was the stomach flu. It was not the stomach flu. Remember those water cells I was talking about? They have to
Mm-hmm.
go someplace. And if you only forgive anywhere from 3 to 10 people at a time, your body can mitigate it while you sleep. But if you do more
That
than
makes
that, there's a
sense.
really good chance you're going to make yourself sick. Now, you didn't eat a piece of bad fish. It's
Yeah,
just your body getting rid of all of that toxic waste.
because it is toxic.
Yeah.
Negative emotions are toxic.
Let me tell you this is a true story. It might stretch people's brains a little bit. It won't hurt too bad, I promise. I really did forgive this childhood friend of mine. And I sat down in the middle of my bed and I said the mantra, and that was that. I had not spoken to this person in decades. Not kidding. 2 hours later, she calls me up on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked out of
Wow,
my
that's
mind,
really
but
beautiful.
my concierge training kicked in immediately. So I masked how shocked I really was. And we said all the right words and made all the right noises and did what people do, when they're making up with each other. But I couldn't stand it. And I said, I'm a curious little bear. I have to know. Why did you call me after all the years?
Yeah,
And she said, it's the darndest thing. 2 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying my forgiveness mantra, mind you, a figurine you gave me in school flew off my shelf and landed in the middle of my floor. And I decided
that
to give
is
you a call.
incredible.
She was 700 miles away.
Wow.
So if forgiveness energy, which will work, it's like the law of gravity. The law of gravity will work whether you believe it or not. The forgiveness energy has the power to change the water molecules within your own body and move a figurine 700 miles away for a level 1 person. Can you imagine what it's going to do to your life when you get to level 5, 6, or the higher numbers?
This is really astounding and beautiful and just really incredible and definitely eye-opening. Something that you'd mentioned before, that first you forgive for you. But as you're
Uh-huh.
telling me the story, I'm feeling that once you forgive for you, you also open up the energy for the other person on the other side of that forgiveness.
I think there's probably a boomerang effect.
Yes,
There really
absolutely.
is. I think the energy kind of goes out both ways. Now, on the face of it, you can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, dare I say. You can forgive the war in the Middle East if you want to. What is it going to do for the war in the Middle East? On the face of it, not a darn thing. But if it's going to do a lot for you, you can forgive the football team that lost last week.
Sure.
Anything you're angry at, anything on CNN that makes you really pissed off, you can forgive because you're the prisoner, not them. The person you're mad at doesn't even know you're mad at and probably doesn't care. And for the women listening, this really pisses us off, ladies, doesn't it? Because it's an ex. And you want that ex to be as miserable as you, right? But they're not. They're living their life. You're the
Yeah,
one who's miserable. They're living
right.
rent-free in your head. Time to evict them. And
Right. Oh, I
you
love how you
can
said that. They're living rent-free in your head.
They're living
Wow.
rent free in your head. And
Oh
it's
my
anything like
goodness.
this. You can forgive anything. Forgive the person who just pissed you off on the news. Anything
Yeah.
is forgivable. And it's all going to affect your energy and it's going to make your life better. But start with the easy ones. I'm going to say that as many times as I have to.
What if what if you don't start with the easy one and you start with the toughest one?
Well, you could, but it's the toughest one is a bear. If you want to make a pass at the toughest one, that's a beautiful thing. And you might get that first layer or second layer of the onion I'm talking about. You might be able to rid it. Maybe you can't forgive the person, but you could make a pass at forgiving the energy around the person. That's fine. If you can't forgive even that, just pick a memory and forgive parts of the memory. Let me give you an example. And the only reason I use Martha is because I don't have an Aunt Martha, past or present. So it's a
Okay.
safe name for me.
Okay, Martha. Let's use
Apologies to
Martha.
anybody who's actually named Martha. My mother used to say every family's the same, only the names are different. So we all have an Aunt Martha in our family. She drinks. She drinks a lot and she's toxic. And she loves to push people's buttons. And she loves it when she actually gets an emotional reaction out of you. It just brings her so much joy to watch you squirm and get all upset.
Mhm.
And she really is quite the alcoholic. So the more she drinks, the more colorful she gets. And for
Yes.
some reason, your parents sit you next to Aunt Martha every year at Thanksgiving, and you're stuck next to this woman, and you've begged and pleaded, please don't sit me next to Aunt Martha. And every year, there you are. And every year, it takes you a week to decompress and from what she said, because she knows exactly what to say to you.
Hmm.
So what do? Well, we have a few weeks before, we have at least a week before Thanksgiving, right? And or even more before Christmas. You know you're going to see Aunt Martha. So pick out the worst memory. And where was it? And I want you to pick out the pieces of the memory. You may not be able to forgive Martha, but you might be able to forgive the energy around her. But there's other things in that memory you can forgive. And I'm actually very serious. Forgive the table. Forgive the building
Yes.
where the meal was. Maybe your parents' house. Maybe it was your house. Forgive the building. Forgive the table. Forgive the people around the table that just sat and watched the show and
Hmm.
didn't do anything. Forgive them too. Forgive the date. I forgave 1974, the whole year.
Wow.
Now, I did
Forgive the
pick
year.
out the players in 1974, but it was still bothering me. So I forgave 1974 and the energy. And that's the year I almost committed suicide. So it was still bothering me. And every time I heard about a suicide story, it would kind of linger in my head. And I thought, I need to toss this. So I forgave 1974. And it kind of sealed the deal for me. So by doing this method, what's that going to do for Aunt Martha? Nothing. But when you get to Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever function it is, you're not going to care. She will try and push your buttons. Trust me, she will. She's going to drink. You know she's
Yeah.
going to drink. You know she's going to push your buttons, and you're probably going to laugh. Instead of getting angry, you're probably going to laugh because she's not going to have any effect on you anymore. You won't care. And you might try to push her buttons for a change. Or you maybe, this is a 34 years sober person telling you make it into a drinking game. Not that that will help particularly, but it might make it more
Right.
entertaining. And more angry she gets, the more laughing you'll probably get. It's going to remove the emotional charge. That's what it's going to do. It's not going to really help the woman, but it will do a lot for you.
You mentioned some. Thank you so much for that. Definitely is really vivid, and I'm sure we all have an Aunt Martha in our family. So
Everybody
this
does.
is everybody does, absolutely. And so what if there are multiple memories with that one person? Are we to look at all the memories that we can think of? Let's say we're making our list, and let's say we have one person that's kind of just hanging over us, that's the heaviest, as far as who we need to forgive. And so there are multiple memories. Do we write down the multiple memories and forgive those multiple memories? I mean, what
I
if the
want you to
list is exhaustive?
Well, I want you to take the top 10 memories and write your
Mhm.
list, but instead of writing a whole a whole bunch of different people on this particular list, you're
Right,
going to
for that
write
one
your list of
person.
memories that's around
Okay.
that one person. And then you're going to rate the memories from 1 to 10. And then you're going to go through them, starting with the ones and moving your way up. And
Wow, that's
then
incredible.
that energy will release you. And if you feel the need to do it again, get out a fresh piece of paper, write down another bunch of memories, rate them from 1 to 10. See, this is why I tell people this is a marathon, not a sprint. This is not something you can do in 24 hours. People call this shadow work because you're literally working in the
Yes,
shadows of your past.
true.
And this is going to take a minute. Some people
Yes.
can read my book and do this work all by themselves, like I did. Some people need a buddy. That's fine.
Mhm.
My only codicil is make sure the person you're doing this work with isn't on your list.
Yeah,
May not
that
end
makes
well
sense.
if they're one of the people you need to forgive, right?
Mhm.
So make sure they're not on your list. But this is a powerful, powerful method that will absolutely work if you work it. And I advise everybody, I do this every night before I go to bed. And I usually do up to anywhere from 3 to 10 people every night before I go to bed.
Wow, that's really incredible. And so I can imagine your life has changed in its most incredible, magnificent way since you started forgiving a bunch of people in your life.
I'm at peace now. I
Yeah.
used to hold on to all sorts of anger from my past and from my parents and my family and all these things that have happened to me. I mean, I have a lot of water under my bridge. I've had financial issues, suicide, cancer, all of the big ones. But none of it really makes a difference anymore. I can look back at everything and see these pockets of love. And it just, I don't carry around the anger anymore. It's just gone. It's not there anymore.
So the underlying emotion behind not forgiving someone is is it anger, sadness, is it resentment, or is it all of this one energy encompassing this discomfort?
It's all of it.
Okay.
Anger, bitterness, sadness, it's all. But remember, we were taught, at least I was. I'm from a different generation, but my generation was taught to walk away from these negative feelings. Negative feelings are
Yeah.
bad. So
Mm-hmm.
you're supposed to put a stiff upper lip on, and not give in to the emotions. And the opposite is actually true. I want you to dive right in. Now, I've got a lot of people who have looked at me and said, I don't want to go back there. That's fair. I didn't either. And that's totally fair. If you had a rough childhood, rougher than mine, I know you don't want to go back there. I know you don't want to remember it because it was awful.
Yeah.
And that's totally fair. However, I'm only asking you to go back once or twice more to remove it from your life completely. And the reason I want you to remove all this stuff from your life is because the person you came to this planet to be, your authentic self, the
Yes.
reason you're on the planet, the mission that you're on, you can now finally do it. And the reason you haven't done it up to now is because you've been so consumed with this human anger that you just couldn't do it. Remember my glass. You couldn't do it because you were just so focused on all the anger and the sadness and all the stuff that's going on in our world.
Mhm.
I want you to remove all that stuff so you can finally be the person you were always meant to be.
Absolutely. Oh wow, this is really beautiful. And so I'm just like, I'm absolutely gonna try this, you know. And I remember I tried something not to the extent of of forgiving the energy and everything around that energy, but I absolutely did a practice of forgiveness when I went in really deep in with Buddhism, and I forgave people from my past, and I did start to feel. I mean, I'm not suffering anymore from the genetic disease, so there must have been some impact. But I
There
know
was.
that there is still a lot of I'm gonna just use the word residue, some of that residue hanging out because sometimes it shows up in my dreams. And so if
Yeah.
it's showing up in my dreams where there's this distress where I see someone that I'm fearing or I'm uncomfortable, what are they gonna say? Someone from 15, 20 years ago. Obviously, it's still in my energy even when I'm asleep. And so I'm definitely gonna try this before I go to sleep and
And
really
forgive the disease
yeah.
itself, forgive the doctors, forgive all those surgeries, forgive the energy around all these things. And it's gonna literally free you. And not to stretch people's brain to the point of pain and snapping, but this is not the first time you've been on this planet. And I am blessed with being really, really, really intuitive. And you can forgive your past lives as well. In a session with me, I
Yes.
usually will reveal the past life that is tripping you up the most in this
Mhm.
lifetime, and then
Yeah.
we will go through the forgiveness work. And I can't tell you how life changing I've seen people. I mean, life changing. I had one woman who went through a session with me, and then she did some personal work that night. And the next day, she met somebody who was the richest person in town who literally wanted to give her the world.
That's incredible.
True story. See,
Oh
the
yes.
universe isn't going to wait. The humans, we're the ones that think everything takes time. When you release all of this stuff, things happen on a dime.
They sure do.
And you when you get angry or something really horrible happens to you, it really does hang around your energy field. It's the ultimate of intergenerational trauma. And
Yes.
this method, whether it's this lifetime or a past lifetime, that's the ultimate of intergenerational trauma, isn't it? This will release you from that pain. It will release you. So if you are suffering from intergenerational trauma, and frankly, we all are, the buck is going to stop with you.
I love this. Absolutely incredible, Catherine. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for sharing this. I can't wait
Oh,
to
my
try
pleasure.
it
My pleasure.
and
And
let
there's
you know how it
worksheets and
goes.
stuff in the book if you need them.
This is awesome. And so where can our viewers, our watchers, and our listeners find your book, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power?
You can find the audiobook, the ebook, and the paperback on Amazon.com. You can also go to my website, and my first name, thanks to my mother, is spelled a little bit differently. Thanks, Mom. And it's Katharine Giovanni.com, CatharineGiovanni.com.
KatharineGiovanni.com, and you can get her
Mhm.
book, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power, on Amazon.com. So I'd like to end this with a poem that I wrote, dedicated to the energy of this podcast episode. I started writing poetry when I was about 5 years old, and it's just what comes true from my heart. So thank you for allowing me to do this. It's on the topic of forgiveness. How did I forgive if I hadn't known what needed to be unlocked? In facing my past, in standing up for what I thought was cause and effect, I've welcomed the turmoil and set it free with an I forgive you, I release you with love, and I thank you for the beautiful lesson. For now I'm standing in my bright might, and in this light, I welcome you to do the same, sharing a web of commonality. And that's it. Thank you so much, Catherine. I look forward to having you back on the show. You know what I would love to cover that we weren't obviously able to go deep with it, but I would love to have you back on the show and talking about how you go into the method of going into past lives and helping people forgive some of those past lives. That'd be really incredible.
Be happy to. Just tell me when, I'll be here.
Sounds great. Wishing you and your loved ones a wonderful and a beautiful holiday season. Thank you so much.
And you as well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to A Little Less Fear podcast. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button. Tell your friends and your family about A Little Less Fear podcast. And if you are interested in being on my show, feel free to leave me an email at a little less fear at gmail.com. Or if you have any questions or comments and you also want to leave me an additional message, you can also do so from my website, leaving an inquiry at www.alittlelessfear.com. You can get a copy of my book on Amazon, Amazon Kindle, and Amazon Kindle Unlimited, also titled A Little Less Fear. And thank you so much, everybody. I really appreciate all the support. Leave me a review if you get a chance. I love to receive feedback, questions, and comments. And any way that I can be a support to you, please let me know. Thank you so much. I love you. Wishing you love, light, happiness, and many blessings your way.